Happy Monday, everyone. You know, it was only a matter of time till someone sued Broadcom over this VMware subscription changes. We've got that. We've got AI transforming app modernization for cloud native. And it's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your LLM is? It might be at the edge. You're watching Techstrong, gang. Hey everyone, welcome to Techstrong Gang. I'm Alan Schimmel and happy Monday to you. As I said in the opening, we've got some really great topics we're going to go over here. But first, let me introduce you to our Monday morning Techstrong Gang. We've got some regulars and some really smart people. I'm happy to have them on. Let's lead off, as I usually do, out to the voice of Silicon Valley. He's our roving editor, John Swartz. Hey, John, welcome. How are you?
I'm good. Good morning, Alan and panel. It's a big day in the Bay Area today. We've got the iPhone event this morning in Cupertino, then Monday Night Football with my beloved Niners hosting the Jets. What more could you ask for?
For the Niners to kill them, that would be real nice.
You're a Giants fan, okay.
No, I'm a Steelers fan.
Oh,
but
okay.
Anybody but the Jets sometimes. Don't tell my Jet fans that.
Promise.
But anyway, good luck and can't wait to see what comes out of the iPhone event, though I think I'm going to skip this cycle.
Yeah.
Also joining us from high in the foothills of New Mexico, she's an open source maven, founder, CEO of Deploy Hub, Tracy Ragan. Hey, Tracy, it's great to have you back.
Hey, Alan, thank you so much. Always glad to be here and start the week on a Monday doing the gang.
Absolutely. It's good to see you. And then joining us from El Dorado Hills, California, sporting the F1 shirt. He's a CTA at Futurum Group, but also just a really, really bright guy with his finger on the pulse of the tech scene, Dave Nicholson. Hey, David, nice to have you on. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Always good to be here.
Absolutely. All righty. Then joining me here in our Boca Raton headquarters studios. I didn't even watch the Yankees last night. Football started. Did they win? They lose? How'd they do?
I didn't check myself, so
it was not there. Yeah, this is what happens when football season starts. He's our chief content officer, Mike Vizard. Hey, Mike.
Hey, how you doing? Good to see everybody as always.
Yep. All right, let's jump into it, guys. So, Mike, AT&T may have made a move that may break the dam, I suspect, suing Broadcom over support fees around this VMware subscription hanky-panky.
Yeah, John has a story about this on Techstrong ITSM, but I read the filing and I was kind of like surprised. It almost read like, something out of a RICO case, and maybe, they're just short of accusing Broadcom of extortion. But John,
are you referring to the bullying tactics that they mentioned?
The very one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so AT&T did what I guess many others would like to do if they had the economic resources. But in a sense, they're suing Broadcom for trying to retroactively rewrite existing VMware agreements and force AT&T to pay for expensive subscription-based services that's going to cost them, they claim, hundreds of millions of additional dollars. The two big concerns from AT&T is that Broadcom is attempting to retroactively alter existing agreements, which would significantly hinder AT&T support services, would lead to software error, security vulnerabilities, soft system outages, and even national security threats, because AT&T works with a lot of customers who are police, firefighters, and government agencies that depend on VMware software for communication during emergencies. I talked with the CTO of Reminity. I always have a hard time pronouncing that. Eric Helmer, and he said that they are getting a ton of business from people who are extremely upset with what's going on with Broadcom and VMware. So they're acting kind of as a go-between and filling in. He basically talked about this idea of vendors locking in customers. And so this is a consequence. There's been a fallout from Broadcom, VMware. Here's just yet another consequence from that merger. And it's going to be interesting. I think you're going to see other people, and I'll throw this out maybe to Mike because he was just at the VMware show, but this idea that they're going to strike back at the empire.
I think Alan has it right in that there'll be more people joining this suit. But David, I don't recall seeing these kinds of lawsuits being filed, and with this level of transparency into a relationship between a vendor and their customer in the IT space. Is this going to become more common, do you think? And what's your impression of the suit?
I don't know if it'll become more common. It's possible. I think it'll be pretty straightforward if contracts were attempted to be undone. That's pretty straightforward. And so what I read, when I go through the complaint, especially when you start tossing in national security, now they're upset that their cost structure is being played with by a company that acquired a vendor of theirs that they feel is too painful to move away from. And I'm sorry, but AT&T, not the most sympathetic figure in my mind. This isn't St. Swithin's orphanage down the street complaining about price increases. I would be very surprised if Hawk10 and Broadcom messed up and didn't realize they had an ironclad contract in place with AT&T. I can tell you from firsthand experience that every aspect of pricing and contracting was absolutely scrutinized, and all of this is by design on the part of Broadcom. So I think what we're going to find out is if anyone has committed an FTL error, which is a failure to lobby error, we're going to see how much political power AT&T has, how much political power Broadcom may not have. And that's how it will be sorted out, frankly, in this case.
So I hope this won't affect AT&T's stellar customer support.
Ma Bell, I still remember Ma Bell. So
yeah.
The idea that they are complaining that someone has a little bit of leverage over them in negotiating over tools. If I were Broadcom, I would put folks from Nutanix and every other organization telling the world right now that it's super easy to move away from VMware. I put them on the stand.
So interesting, Dave. That's exactly what Eric Helmer said. He mentioned Nutanix specifically because people are going to be looking for options.
Well, no, because Nutanix is advertising, hey, we make it easy to move on VMware to it.
Super easy.
None of that actually works, right? I mean, all it does is I can swap the VM, but the entire data set and the databases and everything else that goes above that VM that I got to move is a painful months-long process.
Oh, no. GCP, Azure, AWS, they would all disagree with you mightily. It's super easy. In fact, I can get you.
I do it.
I think it's super easy to swap out the VM, but all the stuff that sits above it is hard.
I'll put you in touch with people from Accenture who will tell you it's $750 per VM to move your VMs for you. And they won't even ask you questions about what
I will put you in touch with Nutanix customers who told me how months of effort went into switching over to Nutanix from VMware.
But look, let's not get into a spinning match over it. Here's what I think.
I'm being sarcastic. Hold on. I'm being sarcastic. Yeah. It's incredibly difficult. What I'm saying is that the world claims that it's not. This is what I'm saying.
And that'll be interesting theater in a courtroom. But I'm telling you right now, this lawsuit will never see the light of day of a courtroom. This was a leverage thing to bring some public pressure onto Hawk10 and Broadcom to do something, right? And, I'm sure there are lawyers representing AT&T who have visions of class action suits in their head, but that's not what this is going to be. This will be settled in a boardroom or a back room.
You're right. They're going to negotiate some settlement. Well, I mean, can I throw something out?
This is just a chit.
Yeah.
Are you saying that somebody's abusing our court system to settle a score?
No, that's what the court system is there, to force compromise.
All about, buddy.
Yeah, it's to force compromise. And so that's what you're dealing. That's what you're dealing with. No big deal.
I think we have to remember, too, that the government is probably one of the biggest consumers of VMs. So how will the government step in, and what is Broadcom brought to the government in terms of contracts?
They don't care what they pay in subscription fees.
They have budgets. They care.
I'm kidding. I was being as sarcastic as Dave.
Yeah, and I'm just curious how the government is being approached by Broadcom. Are they doing the same thing, which would surprise me, because they're a huge customer of Broadcom.
I mean, David, VMware will claim, or Broadcom will also claim, that they're the last company that had a perpetual license, and then everybody else already moved to subscription. So why is everybody beating them up over this thing? They're just kind of following everybody else's pricing structure.
That would be my argument. I think the Hawk Tan argument, though, behind closed doors, is going to be pound sand. He's not intimidated by the public pressure, by what AT&T says. Now, the U.S. government, that's an interesting question, and I don't think that they have the same pricing issues with the U.S. government.
Well, generally, the U.S. government has, no pun intended, most favored nation kind of pricing with vendors like this. I used to sell a lot to the U.S. government. We had to have separate SKUs for the government product. But
given also the climate of the government and stance towards big tech, you think that that's the last person or entity customer you want to rattle these days too.
Yeah. But don't think that there aren't a ton of companies out here on the sidelines cheering on AT&T and saying, "Yeah, I hope you get something because we're right behind you."
Sure. And I would say if you're looking at the friction associated with switching away from VMware, it's even greater going back a little bit in history and looking at some of the titles from Computer Associates that are now Broadcom titles in the mainframe space.
In the mainframe.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, they've maintained that mainframe business, certainly.
Yeah.
David, how good are the third-party support services that people might look to that John was talking about from Rimney Street? They do support for SAP and Oracle for other folks, and there's a lot of alternatives out there for these support services, but it's not clear to me that they have the lion's share in the market. So what's your sense of why don't people just rely on them more when they run into these issues?
So when you say third party in that they do not have an official relationship with Broadcom, or
they are a third party
OEM kind of stuff.
They have their own experts and their own support services, and they have their own squads that you come in and you don't rely on VMware, you rely on them.
Yeah. Now, again, just to be clear, so this is not someone who has a contract with Broadcom to provide support. So
right.
true third party. There's always a benefit to having a hotline to the factory, and being able to. And by the way, I'm wearing my factory Papaya F1 shirt for McLaren because VMware sponsors McLaren. So I'm sort of telegraphing my bias here. Full disclosure, I actually worked on the acquisition of VMware on behalf of Broadcom. So I have a bit of a dog in the fight on this one.
All right. We have a potential witness on the show. Awesome.
You're going to be deposed very soon.
Is to say nothing else without the advice of counsel.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah. So
good.
Yeah.
So, hey,
anyway.
Matt mentioned it. I mentioned this guy, Helmer, the CTO, Rimini Street. He mentioned they were getting a lot of calls and complaints about this matter, but it wasn't just specifically about VMware. He also mentioned, to a lesser extent, they've gone through this with Oracle and SAP. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Oracle's another company that, they don't give away ice in the winter to Eskimos, as they say. And, and there are certain companies that have that kind of reputation in the market. Oracle's one of them. Broadcom is another. But,
SAP was mentioned.
Yeah, but you know what? Things get done in the back room. Maybe AT&T extends their VMware licenses, and there's a tit for tat. And Hawk Tag gets free broadband at his house for a couple of years or something. Who knows? But it'll be interesting. I want to see if other companies.
At some point, the cost of the lawsuit exceeds the cost of the support.
But this is a fight for principle.
Oh, principles is it?
The lawyers win no matter what.
The lawyers always win.
Where do I put that on the balance sheet? I got to figure that one out.
It's under principle.
And maybe there should be a discussion about moving to containers and off of VMs anyway. Maybe
there's going to be
a story
in about 2 minutes.
Oh, right.
Wow,
what a segue.
I guess that's the signal. So I'm going to take a break here on Techstrong Gang. we're going to come back and we are going to switch up to, maybe we should be transferring to containers and Kubernetes. And how does AI go into that? Tracy, we're going to come back to you. But right now, here's a quick break on Techstrong.
Discover Techstrong Group, the epicenter of tech innovation. We're your go-to for reaching IT leaders and practitioners worldwide. Our secret? Impactful content that sparks awareness, engagement, and top-quality leads. With us, you'll access editorial websites, streaming videos, virtual events, custom content, analyst research, and more. Join our satisfied clients. Let's revolutionize your tech journey. Contact us today and tell your story to the world in the most powerful way with Techstrong Group.
All right, folks, we're back. And as promised, we're going to be talking about, well, application modernization, which is sometimes also code for migration. And we have an article this week up on Cloud Native Now talking about how Gen AI is going to make this process a little bit simpler for folks. So maybe we could accelerate the transition from, as Tracy noted, those monolithic apps running on virtual machines can maybe become containers a lot more easily, and they might even be written in entirely different languages. Tracy, how you doing? And what's your sense of the state of Gen AI as it relates to app modernization? Because I keep hearing more and more stories where people are rewriting entire things and moving from Java to Rust, and they are moving from monoliths to microservices, and they're using Gen AI to help them out instead of hiring, 40 consultants who move in for 2 years.
Yeah, it's an interesting application of AI. And for those of you who watch this show, you know I kind of beef on AI a lot, say, come on, it's overused. We never know when we're supposed to use it. But in this case, I think there's two areas that this Gen AI will begin showing kind of its use. And one is in really understanding how to break down a monolith into a domain-driven design with services. That is an area that companies struggle with. They do it badly. They take a long time to do it, and sometimes it doesn't get done. So if we can put that step first, that will be, and Gen AI can help, that will be super transformative in terms of moving off of monoliths. The other area is in the back end, I see that people struggle with, which is really the operational side of it. How to manage containers, how to optimize settings. And these things change all the time. So if we can start employing AI to help in these two areas, I do believe that people will be able to move to a modern architecture much faster than we're doing it today, because just breaking out the monolith across your entire organization, because you can't just take one application. You're a bank, you don't just take one application and try to break it down into domains and to services. You have to look across all of your applications and do that. And this is where natural language processing can really excel. And I'm really hoping to see more of that, as well as understanding configuration parameters, tracking that, and being able to auto repair when things are going south. Because right now we have a lot of SREs that sometimes struggle with tracking so many containers. So those are the two areas I think AI will do the best in. And moving off of VMs will take some time, but this is the first step, and driving into the breaking up of those monolithic applications is the first step. And if you do that well, even the production side becomes easier.
App modernization is code. AI-assisted app modernization is code. I think this is a great use case for AI because, yes, there are complexities, and again, depending on the organization, enterprise, large enterprise, it'll be more complex, less complex, but and how much they're actually moving. But I think this screams for an AI type of. The question is, do you create sort of a custom LLM for this kind of task? Because I think that's, we talk about AI and is it working? Is it living to its promise? Blah, blah, blah. But I think what we're going to see is, I don't want to call them mini AIs, but you're going to have custom LLMs that are very good for specific tasks, and you run that for this kind of thing, and off you go. I think, and there'll be a lot of business around that.
David, do you think that this might reduce the app modernization fear factor? We've all heard the story. I've got some COBOL application that some guy wrote, and he's probably living on a beach somewhere and isn't taking my phone calls. But I'm too terrified to mess with this app. So can I get in there now with Gen AI and kind of understand how the code was written, how it's structured, and convert it into something more modern?
I have to assume that someone is seeing that value proposition. And the reason why I say that is because it's frankly shocking how little pushback I hear against this idea of implementing this new thing. I call it a PLUI, a plain language user interface. When we went from CLIs to GUIs, oh my, there were people who just absolutely couldn't stand them for their lack of flexibility and their lack of accuracy compared to a CLI. The response was, yeah, but look, so easy. Look at this. Look how efficient. And people drag their feet. And now what do we have? We have a mix of sort of CLI, if you will, writing code and some GUI stuff. People seem to be rushing headlong into this because of the weight of all of that legacy code. But on app modernization, I've become kind of skeptical about the subject. I think that the area that will be truly modernized is narrower than most people represent it to be. I think most things will sort of wither away and die over time, and then everything that's new will be developed in a modern context. And there's that narrow area where you've got this VMware-based landscape that you're converting, but a lot of that work can be mind-numbingly complicated. So yes, if AI can prove itself, and yes, it will need custom, contextual, very customized models just to understand what it is you're prompting it to do, it will definitely help. And again, I'm just shocked by the lack of pushback.
Tracy, I'd love to get your thoughts on one thing that David just said there. Is it easier to build a new app to replace the old app or to modernize the legacy app? Because what David's kind of pointing at is that it's getting simpler to build a new app. So why not just get rid of that thing that's been sitting around for 20 years?
No, I would agree. You just build a new app. No doubt. Absolutely no doubt. In fact, I think you're ahead of the game when you do so, just simply because some of the problems that you originally built into it, you have an opportunity to move it out. We've done that at OpenMake software and at Deploy Hub many, many times. Instead of, trying to fix something, we just, tear it all apart, let it sit on the garage floor for a while and pull it all together in a new, better way. So yes, I believe that is, and that's why I believe this, Gen AI works for this, because you can take a monolith, you can look at it, and again, the LLMs are going to be a problem here because we don't have a lot of data on the operations side. But on the code side, we already have tools that are generating code. So I believe that we can potentially have the ability to look at a organization's code base and sort out how you can build services, small independent services, and then generate most of that code. So it's coming, and that is the way systems will be modernized. And I believe that most companies will start retiring an old system and rebuilding from scratch.
So, I'm reminded of a conversation I had 8 or 9 years ago. I think it was at IBM Think. If they called it Think, then they might have called it something else. It was with the newly minted CIO at Hertz. Hertz had just moved to their brand new worldwide headquarters in Esotero, Florida, which near Fort Myers, and they were going under a huge cloud migration. But it really wasn't a migration; it was an extinction event. What they were doing is they would build from scratch a cloud-based application, and as soon as that application was up and running, they just shut off the old application. Didn't migrate anything. Just went shut down, out with the old and in with the new, throw the baby out with the bathwater. Shortly thereafter, Hertz went into bankruptcy. That CIO was fired, right? And chaos ensued. And and if you've ever used, and I use them all, and then none of them are great, but Hertz's IT and app system is far from great even today, though it is cloud-based. I don't know if that's the right answer. I think history teaches us something there.
I don't know. David, technical debt has been with us. I sometimes refer to Jacob Marley as the patron saint of IT technical debt. You wear the chains of IT decisions that you forged in life forever in the afterlife, it feels like. Can we actually, with AI, maybe start reducing that technical debt to get down to something that's a little more manageable than it is today?
It's definitely going to help. There's no question. But I think that it's still going to be a problem. And for the majority of that technical debt, sometimes just let it wither away and die is the best solution for that technical debt. So I think AI is going to be more helpful in the creation of net new things. And there's going to be a gray area between this idea of replatforming, refactoring, migrating. What are you actually doing? You're dealing with technical debt. It's just that you're using AI to pull sort of the essence out of that old stuff to create net new stuff. So the short answer, which I'm completely incapable of giving, is yes, it's going to help.
All right. So coming back to your lawyer discussion and the previous block, if I have the ability to reverse engineer things a little bit more easily, does a vendor have the leverage it used to have, or can I sit there and look at that vendor and say, you know what, I'm going to leave you?
If reverse engineering was illegal then, it's illegal now. IP is still IP. Just because AI can reverse engineer faster than a person can, doesn't mean that your IP rights are any less than before.
But I can reverse engineer my stack that sits on top of your stack and move it to a different stack.
Theoretically, if it's all your IP and you're not infringing on my IP.
There you go. So I just need a lawyer to sit next to my app modernization team and everything will be fine.
You never get one lawyer. Whenever there's one lawyer, there's at least another. That's just the way it works. All right. So I guess the question is out there to you guys that modernize your apps for cloud native using AI. It's coming. But I don't think we're going to run into the IP issue. I don't think most people are lucky necessarily to do that unless you want to get out of paying subscription license fees or something.
Yeah,
that's when that comes.
Or I just want to migrate faster from one virtual machine to another virtual machine that runs a little bit better on Kubernetes or something of that ilk. I can get there, I think. We'll see.
There'll be ways of doing it. All right, let's take a break here on Techstrong Gang. We're going to come back for our third block today and last of the week. And it's LLMs at the edge. The first of the week, excuse me. Yeah, it's only Monday.
Yeah, try that again if you want.
Football season's here and I'm
all
out of sorts. Okay. You're watching Techstrong Gang.
All right, folks, we're back. And yes, we're talking about some more futures in the land of IT. And this time we're talking about, well, our large language model is going to find their way out to the network edge. And there's an argument that says that if I have code running at the edge, I kind of want it to be processed and analyzed, or the data at least, at the point where it's being created and consumed. And so making API calls to the cloud for every little thing is not sustainable. We are seeing smaller inference engines starting to emerge, and language models themselves now come in t-shirt sizes, small, medium, and large, and some of the smaller ones can actually make it out to the edge. And so, David, what's your sense of, what's going on here at the edge? Will we see this happen, and how long? And are we going to have this kind of diversity of language models that are out there that are some going to be managed by your traditional IT operations team?
Yes. So I think that absolutely the edge is the frontier Is that a cliche to say the edge is the frontier for where LLMs will live? They'll get smaller, they'll get more customized. In the very near future, having an LLM running locally on a device at the edge, whether it's a mobile device or a PC, will be akin to having a calculator app on your phone. To do those calculations on a mobile device, you don't need to make calls out to the internet. You don't need Wi-Fi access. And then the question becomes, what is that balance of data storage and processing power that's necessary at the edge? What makes sense to run at the edge? But the key thing you referenced is this idea of customization. Salesforce is making a lot of noise around its large action model and agentic AI stuff that they're building with open source code. But they're also telegraphing to the world that it's extremely complicated to do this kind of customization yourself. So they're saying, hey, come use our platform and our tools and we'll make it easy for you. But so we talk about LLMs. I think the really exciting stuff is going to be in the form of large action model stuff. So small, large action models, so that what you're prompting on a mobile device or on a device at the edge, the processing power necessary to actually go out and do something, as opposed to simply generating something, will be a game changer from a productivity perspective. So yes, look at LLMs at the edge, look at what we'll call large action models, this idea of agentic AI. It's all getting pushed out, much to the delight of the AMDs and Intels and Snapdragons of the world.
Absolutely. But LLMs at the edge are not going to make extinct LLMs at the core, or, at the central, nor will it, I envision the future. You have LLMs on device, you have LLMs at the edge, and you have LLMs back at the core, and they all serve different functionalities. We're launching a new TV series here on Techstrong TV called The Connectivity Cloud. And it's sponsored by our friends at Cloudflare. And, they buy into this in a big way, right? They think LLMs at the edge, computing at the edge is the future, but they also recognize that's not to say that the core cloud data center goes away, but that we all live in this world. We never seem to have enough computing power, storage space, places to do computing. So we're going to need it on the device. We're going to need it at the edge, and we're going to need it in the core, and we'll probably find other places to put it too. So stay tuned for that. It's called the Connectivity Cloud. You'll see it. I think it'll debut next week on Techstrong TV. Heads up, I'm co-hosting that with Mitchell, Ashley, and it should be a great show.
Tracy, I'm not necessarily buying the argument from Salesforce that says that agentic is too hard and you should leave that to professionals like them. A lot of folks I talk to say that agentic is really RAG 2.0, and it's just adding the reasoning engine to a RAG process and creating an agent that's trained for a very specific task using the data that's at hand. I don't know what's your take on it, if you looked at this just yet, but I know you've kind of looked at RAG, and it seems like it's just the next logical follow-up.
Well, you hit on several points that are my complaint points. First of all, why are we using AI? And we have to question that. And I haven't looked at this. I've read some articles on it, but I don't consider myself an expert, even though I did stay at a Holiday Inn last night. But the other thing is the agents. We're seeing too much reliance on the agent technology. And I don't understand why in particular Salesforce needs to do that. That was my question for Salesforce. Why do we have to have an agent for this?
Because we always have agents.
We have to stop. We just have to stop doing that. And the other thing I want to say is Alan touched on something that we haven't talked about on this show before, and that's multimodal LLMs. We will have LLMs talking to each other. And that, I think, will be far more interesting. And that's where it'll be pushed out at the edge. And in terms of Who's going to do this? I really believe logistics companies have a lot to gain by having these small edge LLMs that are able to talk to each other with different topic information. Having worked in warehousing and logistics for some time, when AI first came out, I thought about how warehousing could be completely transformed with LLMs and AI. But of course, what do we have to have? We have to have agents. I really want to know how we could do it without having agents on every single edge and every single compute node that has to interact with the data. That's the question I feel like we have to answer, because we're just expanding our attack surface every time we put an agent into our environment.
But I've seen this. I was in security for 25 years, right? And we went through this. Do we need another agent? Why do we need to have another agent? And then people start saying, but wait, it's a light agent. It's a lightweight agent, very small footprint. It's still an agent. Then people say, okay, that's not good enough for you. Agentless. We're going agentless. It's just a piece of code we're putting on your computer, but it's really not an agent. We're agentless. It's still an agent. An agent by any other name would still smell as rotten.
We've got to think a better way to do things. There's got to be a better way to do it.
All right, David, let's paint the future a little bit for a second here on that point, right? So we're creating little agents that are trained for different things, and we're using RAG and LLMs to create these you might consider the next generation of agents, but they're smarter and they do better things. The issue is, how do I orchestrate all these agents? And if all these agents are sitting around on different platforms, am I going to create a workflow around that? And then finally, I could have 5 different agents doing the same thing, and they're all trained slightly differently. So how do I know which agent might be better at something than the other agent? Kind of like a real estate agent, right?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm
sorry. I thought you were pitching me, and you thought I was a VC. Is this?
That's what it sounded like, didn't it?
So how do I do all that stuff?
An agent to rule them all.
You have Mike. You've got my attention. What is your solution for it? I want to invest in this.
I think that's what's going to have to ultimately happen. It's got to be some sort of orchestration engine, but I haven't heard anybody really stand up and say these are how we're going to orchestrate this stuff.
So there are a bunch of very, very small outfits that are getting investments that are looking at exactly that. And to the broader point, the question of what constitutes agentic AI versus running agents in different places. People will make arguments that, well, no, don't worry about it. We're not going to be putting agents everywhere. But yes, you're going to have varying. If you have versions 1 through 5 of something, orchestrating them, testing them, optimizing them. Think about the classic A/B testing when testing consumer preferences out on the web. Imagine having 5 agents, if you will. And again, if we're not using the term in the same way, point that out to me, folks. But imagine having these sort of virtual assistants that are programmed to do things in slightly different ways that you can rank against one another. The classic example, and again, it's because Salesforce is in the news very recently on this subject. They're talking about being able to do something like, say to this virtual assistant, send an email out to everyone that fits this category and have a conversation with them about this thing. And they go off and autonomously carry on conversations on your behalf. Now, having 5 versions of that happening, probably a good idea at first to see who's getting the best results.
So I think we're talking about 2 separate things, though. And here's my point. I think on one hand, there's absolutely going to be an opportunity for a Kubernetes of agentic AI, right? And maybe Google has something in open source right now, or OpenAI does, or Anthropic, or someone. The other issue, though, David, that you hit on and you touched on is, in a war of AI agents, how do I pick what's the best one for my given job, right? And that's no different than, how do I pick what cloud provider do I want to use, right? Microsoft's good at this stuff. Google seems to be pretty good at Kubernetes and cloud native, and AWS is good at this, and Oracle is good at that. the market will ferret through, and you'll say, hey, if I'm doing this test, this is the best AI. And that's just market dynamics at play.
Tracy, any of that making you feel better?
No, in fact, it doesn't. But in terms of Salesforce's, their RAG, I don't trust it yet. Maybe that's just me, but I'm getting to the point where I feel like, do I really want to put my customers under that kind of a process or prospects? So I think maybe for me, I'm having a trust issue, and I understand some of the agent problems that we're having and the security issues around them. So for me, I think it is, I feel like, slow down. Let's make sure this is working correctly, and let's not be hearse and put something out and try to upgrade to a new technology and find out it's not the best way to treat our customers or end users in any case.
This is like autonomous driving, right? I mean, I've had autonomous parking and somewhat driving on my cars for a couple of years. I've never used it because it just gets me a little freaky. And I don't trust it. I guess at the end of the day, you're right, Tracy. It's a trust issue.
Yeah.
But I think we'll have to overcome that or be left behind as dinosaurs.
Yeah. And when you think that 1 out of 10 people driving on the road is impaired, how much worse could it be?
This is also true. This is also true.
I hope those impaired people are using autonomous driving.
Crazy. All right. Well, that was a good way to end it. I think we're going to call a wrap on this version of Techstrong Gang. It's been a great Monday. Mike, you're going to be with me out this week in Austin.
We are.
We will be at JFrog Swamp Up.
There you go.
And we are going to, I think we're going to do a Techstrong Gang from there. Probably be Wednesday's Techstrong Gang, right?
Well, now that you said so, we are.
Yeah, okay. We'll be there. David, you traveling anywhere?
Headed up to Portland to go visit Intel. So looking forward to that.
John, I think you're off somewhere this coming week.
I will be going, well, let's see. The time. Yes, I will be going to Dreamforce in San Francisco, and some interesting interviews that are being lined up, including one with Will.i.am, of all people, who's very big participant in tech shows. And I actually might go to Boston for something, but I'll talk to you about that later.
Very cool, John. Enjoy. Tracy, how about you?
I am staying home. I am grounded probably until, there was a couple of shows I thought about going to, and I just decided to stay home this fall. Haven't done that in a long time.
Good for you. KubeCon, though? No KubeCon even.
It's too big.
All
right. Well, we'll keep
big.
wraps on it. Hey, at all of these places, we will have Techstrong coverage. You can check it out there. And for those who don't know, David does a fair amount of writing, reporting, videoing over at 6.5 Media and Futurum Group, sister company. So do follow him and check him out there. But until tomorrow, hey, we've got a full day of Techstrong TV following the gang today. So stay right here and see what else we have for you. But that's going to end it for the gang. We will talk to you tomorrow, everyone. Have a great day.